Peace, 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 everyone.
Peace, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Can y'all throw some ones up and let us know that y'all can hear us?
Let us know the audio coming through clean.
Give us some ones if you can hear us. Anybody? Anybody? No? Okay.
Peace, Mark Walton. Peace.
What's going on?
Everyone's still coming in.
Okay, that's good. Hopefully everyone can hear us. And we're coming in loud and clear.
Peace, Copper Color Queen. Hope you're enjoying your evening.
Hopefully you made home safe. And give us some ones if you can hear us. Some ones in the chat so we can know that we're coming through loud and clear. Okay, thanks, Mark. So because we have so much to cover with Jospeh Brant, we decided to do another Eden build. And also too, it was brought to my attention that I owe the community an apology. So I will be doing that at the end of this build. Apologize to the community. You know, when I make a mistake and I'm wrong, I will apologize. So stay tuned for that. So what's going on with you, Bone?
Oh, nothing much, nothing much. Just sending out these links to these other social platforms so everyone know that we're on.
All right, cool. Now, eventually, we are going to be moving away from YouTube, correct?
Yes, it'll be strictly from our website, or you can find us on Twitch TV.
Okay.
Just like Twitch TV, Justin TV, and already from the radio station. If you get it from the website, you can hear us on iTunes, Windows Media Player, basically anything that can stream audio or video. You can always catch us there.
So could you,
those links, sir?
Yeah, if you send them the link to the Grand Rising Show page on the website, it's all right there under the player. You can just click on which one that you like to use the best and go from there.
so could you at least tell us why did you intend on moving away from YouTube?
It's mainly because this information and what we're doing is too valuable to be dictated by people who want to block messages, flag channels, or even with YouTube and their policies makes it kind of hard for what it is that we're trying to do with this. Because our only motive is helping the American Indian and bringing the tribes to self-sufficiency. So, and a lot of people don't want that message out there. So it's best for us to take what we're doing and put it in a place to where it can't be touched and it can be respected and valued. We'll still have like the old episodes showing up on YouTube, and some of them would be like posted there, but mainly we're going to be out on our own platform moving forward.
Okay. And as someone who has been able to maneuver and help other artists maneuver on social media platforms, is this something that you would suggest for everybody that's on YouTube, regardless of what the message they're promoting?
Yeah, if you're creating your content and you're making your content, it's wise for you to have it on your own platform outside of YouTube. It's best, like I tell people all the time, learn the policies of the platforms that you're putting your information on. because we put this information on platforms that you don't own, that at any given time it can be blocked, it can be taken down, somebody can flag you, you know? And I tell people like this, let's take professional artists. You don't see them putting their stuff on YouTube. It's always a third party that puts it on YouTube.
And why is that?
Well, the third party puts it there because the owners will have their own site and them links go back to their site. Like you see some of these shows, they'll show you like a 5-minute clip on YouTube, this or that on YouTube, and it goes back. And a lot of them are YouTube partners.
Okay, so what is a YouTube partner?
Well, YouTube partner, there's some entities out here to where we have deals with YouTube, and it allows us to stream our own original content, our own original commercials, and receive from it. But that's not everybody in the community. Let's take this for example. You do content, you monetize it. You have to get so many views to get paid from it, okay? But YouTube got paid from whoever paid for the commercials up front. Okay. It's just a better business model for the individuals that's trying to own their own.
Okay. So how does one become a YouTube partner?
Well, to be a partner with YouTube, you have to have so many people coming in. You have to have the content to get sponsors. And I mean, with this here, not saying that it can't be done, it's a lot harder.
Okay.
Especially when it's on a platform where it's not designed for this. You know, like I said, if you look at people who are actually serious in this world and what they're doing, they own their own platforms. You can take any podcast. Yes, you might see the episodes on YouTube, but you can take the Breakfast Club, the Joe Rogan Experiment. All of them have their own platforms first. The information goes to their own platform, then it goes to the third-party platform after. But they still have the rights because it's on their platform. So if you was to turn off YouTube today, guess what? They still have their media that they can still stream and show. I mean, some of us who have pages know how that go. YouTube shuts you down. You can't send nothing out, can't do anything. Limited to what you can say and what you can do with it, you know? So it's just, like I said, it's just being smart with it. Taking the time, like I said before, taking the time and learning the mechanisms, how these things work, you know? That people keep saying it's not business. That's the biggest mistake. It's all business. All the time. It's minding your business. We can't say it's not business, then you clock in a 9 to 5. You're not giving them checks back, are you?
I know I wouldn't be. Peace, David Corey.
Peace, David Corey. You know, just a basic little thing on what we're doing and why we do what we're doing with it. Is to make sure that from here on, that anybody who ever needs access to this information, that they'll never be blocked or locked out from it.
Right.
You know, that's the end game on why we built our own platform. This is why we have our own website. So anybody who ever needs the information and needs to get in contact, there's a way of doing it. And not to mention, it belongs to us. We own it. We dictate what can show on it. It's not like we're teaching American Indians and you having liquor commercials on the website, or you know what I'm saying, setting out a place on what the message is. When you own it, you have more control over what get displayed and how it's used.
Right.
YouTube can you can be talking positive and YouTube can have a negative commercial coming on, you know?
Yeah.
You don't dictate what it's going to be. Yes, you can pick the categories for where it comes from, but you can't dictate what it's going to show.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing a bit of information.
Like I said, no problemo.
So you ready to roll with Jospeh Brant?
Hey, we've been here going on what, 2 weeks now? Man. This dude is something else.
Why does it seem longer? Gosh.
It almost seemed like a month. Well, maybe because all the other episodes was leading us up to get ready for him.
Yeah, Mark Walter said, make sure you send a link to us constantly before you convert all the way over to.
Oh yeah, we
Only
wouldn't do that.
support my
Yeah, yeah.
left in the dust. Yeah,
Yeah, our intention, yeah, we're not going to leave none of the relatives behind. Constantly every day, the links to where the page at and the website. So you can catch us on Twitch, like I said again, Twitch TV or autonomousassembly.com on the Grand Rising Show page. That's where you also will find the radio station. It's always there. We'll always be there.
cool, cool. Okay, y'all ready to do this? Y'all got your hard hats? Y'all got your backhoes?
Dynamite if you need it, C4.
No, right?
Need some plastic? No, let me stop before somebody take that the wrong way.
I know, right? All right. So we are on Jospeh Brant. Can we put this in the back chat? Hold on. I'm in the chat.
Yeah, I posted it in there.
Okay.
I'll post it again.
So we are reading After the War.
Mark Walton asked who exactly was Jospeh Brant and what tribe he came from. He missed a lot.
Yeah, Mark. He's actually from the Mohawk tribe, and he's fighting on the side of the British in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, he's an Indian, well, mulatto Indian who was fond of the colonizers and enjoyed the European lifestyle, but also tried to make deals. He was basically making deals with everybody, to make a long story short.
Yeah, he was a quadruple agent, and it ended up biting him in the behind, for lack of better terms.
Mm-hmm. Called him in the end.
So I'm trying to figure out where we were. Okay.
And for lack of a better term, you can consider him so far the first Uncle Tom, and not to be funny or disrespectful.
Yeah, consider my name is Thomas. Yeah.
Put in the terms that a lot of people probably will understand it a lot quicker.
So we're at the part where his son Isaac had murdered somebody, and he was trying to get a trial going, but he basically ended up accidentally killing his son. So we're at around the paragraph that reads, in early 1797, Brant traveled again to Philadelphia to meet the British diplomat Robert Liston and the United States government officials. In a speech to Congress, Brant assured the Americans that he would never again take up the tomahawk against the United States. At this time, the British were at war with France and Spain. While in Philadelphia, Brant also met with the French diplomat Pierre-Auguste Adet, where he stated, "We would offer his service to the French minister Adet and march his Mohawks to assist in effecting a revolution and overturning the British government in the province." When Brant returned home, there were fears of a French attack. Peter Russell wrote, "The present alarming aspect of affairs, when we are threatened with an invasion by the French and Spaniards from the Mississippi, and the information we have received of emissaries being dispersed among the Indian tribes to incite them to take up the hatchet against the king's subjects." He also wrote that Brant only seeks a feasible excuse for joining the French should they invade this province. London ordered Russell to prohibit the Indians from alienating their land. With the prospects of war to appease Brant, Russell confirmed Brant's land sales. Governor Russell wrote, "The present critical situation of public affairs obliges me to refrain from taking that notice of Captain Brant's conduct on his occasion which it deserves." When Brant arrived in New York in June 1797, asking for Russell to confirm the land sales along the Grand, the governor asked for the opinion of the Executive Council of Upper Canada, who told him to confirm the land sales. In July 1797, a message from London arrived from the colonial secretary, the Duke of Portland, forbidding Brant to sell the land along the Grand. Russell offered Brant an annuity that would be equal to the land sales along the Grand, which Brant refused. In a report to London, Russell wrote that Brant had great influence not only with his town tribe, but with the rest of the Five Nations and most of the neighboring Indians, and he was very capable of doing much mischief. To keep Brant loyal to the crown, Russell then struck a deal under which Brant would transfer the land along the Grand River to the crown, which would sell it to the white settlers with profits going to Six Nations. Wow. Brant then declared they would now all fight for the king to the last drop of their blood. In September 1797, London had decided that the Indian Parliament was too sympathetic toward the Iroquois and transferred authority from dealing with them to the Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada. Russell, a move that Brant was openly displeased with, the veterans of the Revolutionary War like John Johnson, who fought alongside Brant, were more sympathetic towards Brant's efforts to maintain independence for his people, which was why London had removed them from dealing with Brant. William Claus, the new man appointed to handle Indian affairs in Upper Canada, wanted the traditional paternal relationship with the Indians as wards of the crown. You hear that? Traditional paternal relationship with the Indians as wards of the crown, treating them like minorities. On 5 February 1798, some 380,000 acres of land along the Grand belonging to Brant was transferred to the crown, and Brant hired a lawyer from Niagara named Alexander Stewart to manage the money from the land sale. Brant's efforts to make the Six Nations economically independent via land sales of his vast landholding along the Grand River began to bear fruit, and Brant used an annuity to train the Iroquois men to work as blacksmiths, doctors, lawyers, and surveyors, and building a council house and a mill. The crown was displeased at Brant's efforts to make the Iroquois economically independent, preferring that the traditional patronage relationship where the Indians had to line up to receive presents from the crown, and tried to sabotage Brant's efforts as much as possible. See, they did not want them to be independent. They wanted to be dependent, like we are now. Okay. At the same time, Brant was unable to meet expectations in the Haudenosaunee community about the extent of the profits from the land sales, and many openly said that Brant should have driven a harder bargain. In 1798, Brant began to build a new house at Burlington Bay, reflecting his wish to be away from the Grand River community of Brant's town, where so many had criticized his leadership. Most notably, the crown refused to allow Brant to make any further land sales along the Grand, while 5 of the 6 buyers of the land that Brant had sold in 1795 through 96 had stopped payments, hoping to own the land for free while lawyers argued about the legality of the sale. Only Brant's friend, the merchant, Richard Beasley, continued to make his mortgage payments on time and in full. By 1801, Brant was beleaguered with a new governor of Upper Canada, Peter Hunter, refusing to allow Brant to make any further land sales along the Grand. The expected profits of the sale of 1798 not appearing, and most of the Haudenosaunee demanded that Brant retire. In 1802, Hunter issued a decree forbidding the Haudenosaunee from leasing their land along the Grand to white settlers, while Claus used the dispute about the land sales to stir up opposition to Brant with the Haudenosaunee community. At the same time, Hunter served the tie between Brant and the Mississauga by head of the lake in what is now the city of Mississauga, Ontario, arguing the crown's efforts of the people, pence per acre, was far below what the land was worth, as the Mississauga were short of animals to hunt and the fish to catch in Lake Ontario. The loss of presence from the crown was a painful blow, and in 1802, the Mississauga removed Brant as their chief agent. some undercutting going on. In 1805, the Mississauga chief sold what land that is now Mississauga to the crown for goods worth 1,000, I guess it's pounds. In late 1800 and early 1801, Brant wrote to New York Governor George Clinton to secure a large tract of land near Sandusky, Ohio, which could serve as a refuge. He planned its use for the Grand River Indians if they suffered defeat. In September 1801, Brant was reported as saying, "He says he will go away, yet the Grand River lands will still be in the hands that no man shall meddle with amongst us." He says the British governor or the British government shall not get it, but the Americans shall and will have it, the Grand River lands, because the war is very close to break out. In January 1802, the Executive Council of Upper Canada learned of his plot, led by Ann Burr and George Clinton, to overthrow British rule and to create a republic state to join the United States. September 1802, the planned date of invasion passed uneventfully and the plot evaporated. Man, he was doing some crazy stuff.
Oh, quick announcement real quick.
What's up?
Tontinus Assembly is streaming on Twitch TV right now. As we speak, I put the link in there, and we're streaming live from tontinusassembly.com as well as our YouTube page.
All right, so we're streaming from YouTube, Twitch, and the Tontinus Assembly website.
Yes.
This is a move for us to be totally free of the reins of YouTube.
Totally independent.
Yep.
Self-sufficient. That's what we
goal.
talk about all the time.
Exactly. A notable aspect of Brant's answer about the origins of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy was that refrained from any mention of the supernatural or Hiawatha and Watha Tohado is less of a villain than other accounts have him. The American historian Douglas Boyce wrote Brant's answers, which portrayed the genius of the Iroquois Confederacy as due to rational statesmanship on the part of the chiefs instead of the workings of magic, suggested that either Brant was ignoring the supernatural aspects of the story in order to appear to have a white audience, or that alternatively, the white American and Canadian ethnologists, anthropologists, and historians have played up the emphasis of the supernatural in the story of the birth of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in order to depict the Haudenosaunee as a primitive and irrational people. Y'all know the deal.
There they go with that foo-foo.
Ain't the narrative.
My.
So he got caught double and triple dealing. The plan evaporated, and now we on the verge of a war. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So in 1804, Brant sent his agent and friend John Norton to London to lobby various British politicians to allow the Haudenosaunee to sell their land directly along the Grand and to remind them that Brant had fought for the crown in the American Revolutionary War. Brant's old friend, the Duke of Northumberland, whom he had known since 1775, had after meeting Norton raised the issue of the Haudenosaunee land dispute in the House of the Lords, saying the crown should have treated Brant better. Klaus, who felt threatened by Norton's mission, organized a meeting at Buffalo Creek of various Seneca chiefs denounced Brant and announced he was now removed from office. As Brant was not a chief, it was not clear from that what position he was being removed, and furthermore, only a clan mothers could depose the chief. So under Haudenosaunee traditions and laws, the ruling of the chiefs at Buffalo Creek was not binding. Brant organized a meeting of the clan mothers living along the banks of the Grand River who affirmed their confidence in Brant to represent them. So
Go in, Mm-hmm.
One of the chiefs tried to dethrone him, but the house mothers were the only ones that had the right to do it.
Because how are chiefs coming about again? Because you are elected by your people.
That's right.
If there's no election, then there's no power.
Exactly. So if you're a chief, then you should have bylaws and constitutions and people that voted for you. Yeah, that's tribal law. That ain't my law.
Yeah, that's tribal.
So the claim that no one was really a white man was questionable. In July 1806, Brant attended a meeting in Fort George to tell Klaus that only the clan mothers had the power to dispose officially in the Haudenosaunee community, and asked that Klaus not be involved anymore in the land issue, saying that he had not shown good faith. Brant was to spend his last years of life was involved in lawsuits with Klaus as he sought to argue with the legal right to sell the land along the Grand. Brant brought about 3,500 acres from the Mississauga Indians at the head of Burlington Bay. Upper Canada's Lieutenant Governor, John Gray Sycamore, would not allow such a sale between Indians, so he brought this tract of land from the Mississauga and gave it to Brant. Around 1802, Brant moved there and built a mansion that was intended to be a half-scale version of Johnson Home. He had a prosperous farm in the colonial style with 100 acres of crops. So they tried to dethrone him, so to speak. And because the clan mothers supported him, he told Klaus to step aside.
You can't do nothing to me, man.
Can't be playing with them tribal laws.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's letting you know. If they had a court case to the point where they were trying to remove him, and they're letting you know, don't we talk about this all the time? Bylaws and Constitution, if they're correct, can't no court in the land tell you what to do?
Not even the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just making sure.
Brant acted as a tireless negotiator for 6 agents who controlled their land without crown oversight or control. He used British fears of his dealings with Americans and the French to extract concessions. His conflicts with the British administrators in Canada regarding tribal land claims were exacerbated by his relations with American leaders. Brant was a war chief and not a hereditary Mohawk Sachem. His decisions could be and sometimes were overruled by the Sachems and clan matrons. Now I'm gonna say it again. Brant was a war chief and not a hereditary Mohawk Sachem. His
And the
decisions,
mm-hmm. No, I'll wait till you finish the touch on it.
His decisions could be and sometimes were overruled by the Sachems and clan matrons.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I remember us having this conversation earlier where people have to make the distinctions between the different chiefs. Wartime chiefs only have power during the time of war. After that, they have no say-so.
None. They have to step down.
And that's why we say about tying back into your tribe and actually learning these tribal ways. So we don't make mistakes saying that we honoring our ancestors, but we self-proclaiming titles that we did not earn, that we were not picked for. We got to remove the emotion, relatives.
Yeah, because how can you honor your ancestors, but you don't honor their ways, and you don't honor their laws, their tribal laws, their constitutions, their bylaws that they created that you say that you honor. So either you honor them or you don't. Let's see, where was I?
And that's it. We're just trying to make sure that we get this information out correct. Because we also got to remember, every time we come out here halfway with it or not correct, it allows for people to pick apart what it is that the American Indians and the tribes are trying to do. Or if we come out here and we false representing something, we set the tribes that have been doing work for years behind.
Exactly.
And that's why I say again, people wonder why a lot of these tribes don't come out and won't stand forward. If you're not on code, why would they come forward to you? When being off of code is how we got in this situation in the first place.
And that's something to think about. You wouldn't call yourself a medical doctor if you didn't go to school and get your PhD, right? You would honor that title being given or earned because you went to school. Why is it that when it is brought to some people's attention that we are dishonoring our chiefs by calling ourselves chiefs, people get upset? And then you wonder why chiefs don't want to reach out to you. You're basically spitting in their face. They earned that title. They worked for it. They were on code. But you decided because you feel like it that you're gonna name yourself chief. So I'll tell you what. Go to a hospital and call yourself a doctor and have a conversation with a doctor, and then see how they feel about that, and they treat you, and then you might have a better idea what it's like talking to.
Add more to it. Go to a hospital, call yourself a doctor, and attempt to operate on somebody and watch what happens. It should be the same consequences, because this is why I take it passionate. We're so quick to talk about how we respect ourselves and love ourselves and so great, but we disrespect our ancestors when we do this, but we respect everybody else's ancestors because we don't put them titles on ourselves unless we earn them.
That's facts.
But everything that belongs to us, we don't respect it. We think we're entitled to something. Only thing that we're entitled to is fixing the mistakes of our ancestors. If you can't fix them, what you got your hand out for? It's personal. I don't know. Apply it where it fits.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Didn't mean to get you off track.
No, it's all good. Let's see. I didn't realize how much I read.
So, this dude is a novel, 3-part motion picture in the making.
Okay. I'm almost there.
We went through the part where he tried to make the Six Nations economically dependent.
Yeah. It says Brant. Okay, so I'm at the point where it reads, Brant acted as a tireless negotiator for the Six Nations to control their land without the crown oversight control. He used British fears in his dealings with the Americans and the French to extract concessions. So I read that. Oh yeah. Brant was a war chief and not a hereditary Mohawk Socom. His decisions could be and sometimes were overruled by the Socoms and clan mothers. However, his natural ability, his early education, and the connections he was able to form made him one of the great leaders of his people and of his time. The Canadian historian James Paxton wrote that Brant's willingness to embrace numerous aspects of European culture, his preference for wearing European-style clothing, and that he was a devoted member of the Church of England has led to Brant being criticized for not being sufficiently Indian enough. Wow. Replace that with Black enough, African American enough, you get the picture.
Yeah, whatever term you want to throw on there.
Many of his critics would prefer Brant to have been a leader like Tecumseh and Potomac, leading his people into a brave but doomed battle with the white man. Paxton wrote, this line of criticism is based on the erroneous notion of First Nations people being static and unchanging, and fails to understand that a people like the Mohawks could and did change over time. Paxton wrote that Brant grew up in a world where the Palatines, which were the Germans, and Scots, Irish settlers were his neighbors, and he understood that the European colonization was not going to be undone, leading him to attempt to secure the best possible future for his people by seeking in accommodations with the Europeans. The situation of the Six Nations on the Grand River was better than that of the Iroquois, who remained in New York. His lifelong mission was to help the Indians to survive the transition from one culture to another, transcending the political, social, and economic challenge as one of the most volatile and dynamic periods of American history. He put his loyalty to the Six Nations before loyalty to the British. His life cannot be summed up in terms of success or failure, although he had known both. More than anything, Brant's life was marked by frustration and struggle. His attempt to create pan-tribal unity proved unsuccessful through his efforts would be taken up a generation later by the Shawnee leader Tecumseh. You see how they paint the narrative of him being willing to change and accept European culture because it was inevitable. Tecumseh had been able to unite with the Five Nations, there would have been a different America. That much I promise.
Yep. And they had the opportunity to do it.
Yep.
We got to remember there were also chiefs at the time speaking out against what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
What we wrote it earlier this rising about one nation that executed their chief behind this.
Mm-hmm.
Consequences and repercussions.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
So during his lifetime, Brant was the subject of many portrait artists. Two in particularly signify his place in America, Canadian, and British history. So on the stream, you can see an actual portrait of what he looked like. Now who sent you that, Bones?
Respect to Clan Indian X. Respect because he sent the picture of Jospeh Brant. Appreciate that. Keep up the good work and what you're doing. And then again, that's Clan Indian X.
Exactly. So you had a portrait by George Roman painted during Brant's first trip to England in 1775 through 76. Hangs in the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, Ontario. Then there's one by Charles Wilson Peel. Portrait was painted during his visit to Philadelphia in 1797. It hangs in a gallery in the former Second Bank of the United States building at the Independence National Historic Park in Philadelphia. Brant chose to dress in a traditional Mohawk style for the former portraits. Then you got the Joseph Brant Museum, was constructed the mid-1800s on land Brant once owned. An Ontario historical plaque was erected by the province to commemorate the Brant's house role in Ontario's heritage. His first house in Burlington was demolished in 1932. The city of Brantford and the county of Brant, Ontario, are located on part of his land, grant and named for him. So he has a land grant. The town of Brant, New York, was also named for him. Joseph Brant Hospital in Burlington, Ontario, is named for him. It is a site on land he had owned. A statue of Brant from 1886 is located in Victoria Square, Brantford, which is named after him. A township in Tyendinaga at the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory are named for him by his traditional Mohawk name in a different spelling. The neighborhood by Tyendinaga in Burlington was also named for him. Brant is one of the 14 leading Canadian military figures commemorated at the Valiance Memorial in Ottawa, Ontario. A dormitory and one of the squadrons at the Royal Military College of Canada are named for him. See, when you sell out, what gets named after you? I'm just saying.
And let's not forget, Dartmouth College is named after him too. Originally was the Jospeh Brant College, then they changed it to Dartmouth.
This is crazy.
I guess the more you sell out, the more statues you get.
Wow. Let's go ahead and look at the archaeology. In 1984 through 85, crews from the University of Albany, under the direction of David Goldenzow, supervised by Dean Snow, investigated the late Mohawk site in Indian Castle in Herkimer County, New York. Among the structures excavated were a house owned by Molly Brant and her brother Joseph from around 1762 through 1780. The cellar had foundation walls of 60 centimeters thickness with the floor 1 meter below the surface. The house was 6 by 12 meters with a wooden rather than a dirt floor and a gable end fireplace rather than a standard central open fire and smoke hole. The outer walls were covered by clapboards. Following the Brant's forced departure, the house was occupied by a white family until it burned down sometime between 1795 and 1820. The relative luxury of the Brant's house was something rather new to traditionally Elegantarian Mohawk society. Joseph Brant was the first among Mohawk men to advance themselves economically and politically outside the traditional matrilineal political system. In taking on his role, he also took on many English symbols of success, wealth, and the material displayed of force. These things all help us to understand why the administration of Brant by modern Mohawk is so grudging. The site was designated a National Historic Landmark, the Mohawk Upper Castle Historic District, in 1983. Well, so there's a movie called The Broken Chain about his life. Says Brant is a major character in the historical fictional movie Manatana by the Italian writing collective Moving. You got the alternate spellings and pronunciations of his name, and now you have the citations. So, bruh, we did it. We finished.
I said, this dude. All I can say, this dude.
Now, here's the thing about European culture at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They were double and triple crossers.
Yep.
Brant was a double and triple crosser.
Mm-hmm.
But because they knew that, they honored him like he did something honorable. Think about that.
Now I wanted to read this part real quick. I remember
Go
reading
ahead.
it before on his death. It says Jospeh Brant died in his house at the head of Lake Ontario, site of what would become the city of Burlington, Ontario, on November 24th, 1807, at the age of 64. It says after a short illness, his last words spoken to his adopted nephew, John Norton, reflected his long life commitment to his people. It says, have pity on the poor Indians. If you have any influence with the great endeavor, to use it for their good. In 1850, his remains were carried 34 miles, which is 55 kilometers, in relays on the shoulders of young men of the Grand River to a tomb at Her Majesty's Chapel of the Mohawks in Brantford. I'm going to read it again. Her Majesty's Chapel of the Mohawks in Brantford.
So it's highlighted. So let's see what it is. Her Majesty's Royal Chapel of the Mohawks in Brantford, Ontario, is the oldest surviving church building in Ontario and was the first Anglican church in Upper Canada. It is one of the only 3 chapels royal in Canada. In 1981, the chapel was designated as a National Historic Site of Canada. It was constructed in 1785 by the British Crown. The chapel was given to the Mohawk people led by Jospeh Brant for their support of the Crown during the American Revolution. They had migrated to Canada after Britain lost the 13 colonies and were awarded land for resettlement. Originally called St. Paul's, the church is commonly referred to as the Mohawk Chapel. It is part of the Anglican Diocese of Huron and has a chaplain appointed by a bishop of Huron in consultation with the congregation. In 1850, the remains of Jospeh Brant were moved from the original burial site in Burlington to a tomb at the Mohawk Chapel. His son, John Brant, also entered into the tomb. Next to Brant's tomb is a boulder memorializing the writer Pauline Johnson, who was born in the nearby Six Nations Reserve and attended service in the chapel. In 1904, it was designated a chapel royal by King Edward VII.
I remember talking about that earlier. It's kind of funny how all these churches got their hands so tied in.
Yeah.
Like completely strangleholds on things. Finna place, I'm putting that article about the Mohawk Chapel. Yeah, because people got to remember, he kept going over there to England, sitting with them.
He's a true diplomat.
Mm-hmm. But even when you read these stories, it's the part that lets you know that our ancestors, they weren't stationary, that they had the ability to leave this mainland and go anywhere they wanted to. It shows that certain tribes had diplomats in other nations.
Thanks.
And it's like we say before, if you actually break this down, you'll realize a lot of these wars and fighting, it's over commerce, over business. Tribes are making position to do business. These are tribes that adopted the European way of business.
And before that, they had a tribal way of business. They were traders.
Mm-hmm.
Trade
They
with
would,
countries, they would trade
yep.
with continents, they would trade with other people, and they would trade among themselves.
And you have to ask yourself, do you think they were trading for money or they were trading goods for goods?
Goods for goods.
You get what I'm saying? It's when the colonizers started coming and a lot of these tribes was realizing that, okay, we can get finances and land, and like the Iroquois, they were getting paid to run other people off out of the French territory to be fur traders.
Yep.
They didn't do it for nothing else. They had their land. They didn't have to do it. They did it because what the Iroquois said. They wanted to be in charge of the fur trade. Don't that sound like business negotiations?
Those are business negotiations.
I'm just thinking, I'd be in a couple, like 2 of them a week. They sound about the same. I could be wrong. I could be wrong though, but they do sound about the same to me.
Yeah, negotiations go back and forth. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. And also, too, you got to realize that a lot of the tribes, younger people, were alcoholics because whiskey, rum, and beer were introduced to them. And before the colonizer got here, our ancestors smoked, but we didn't drink. Nope. Not like that. So that became our drug. That became our crack.
Because you got to look at it. Before they negotiated with these tribes, if you read the history, that's why it says it's important to read, to go through and see that they would sit down and send cases of rum and whiskey or German beer to the tribes before they did negotiations. I'm trying to remember his name, the one chief that him and his tribe became Catholics. And they got a little bit of a deal because they became Catholics and they refused to have alcohol in their area. The tribe made it illegal for the tribe to drink.
I'll tell you a second.
And therefore they couldn't screw them on paperwork. So what they did, when they was off someplace, they attacked him and killed after he done save a woman of their side, they turned around, killed his granddaughter. What was his granddaughter and sister? Wife it was?
His daughter and granddaughter.
Yeah, his daughter and granddaughter. They turned around and killed. I mean, so it's showing us. It's the main reason why we say know who you dealing with. It's best to know yourself and know the people around you, but really know who they tie back in. Because everybody who look like you ain't for you.
They're saying a scare tactic or someone trying to be funny. It's just real life. And if you've ever dealt on the block, like on the street, I mean, just being real, around real people, hustlers or what have you, you're not going to get away with the stuff that people try to get away with on YouTube. That's how you can tell people, some people are real and some people are fake, because the stuff that they're allowed to get away with on YouTube, you could never get away with it in
person. Yeah.
Neighborhood.
Matter of fact, you wouldn't even try it in person. And if we all understand that we're in a bad situation as a people, and we're coming together to find solutions to get us out of this situation, we must be on code. That's the only way. If your foundation is crooked, how can you expect the walls of your house to be straight? The foundation must be straight, and we have to lay it right. Or if not, we're just setting our children up, passing the buck off to them. And I can't speak for no one else. I refuse to. We must break these cycles.
Thanks. So calling people out or calling out shaky actions or actions that appear to be less than upstanding is something you got a problem with. And the question is, why? I mean, you can't have peace with people who aren't peaceful. And the people that are screaming peace the loudest are the ones that say they want peace, but then behind closed doors, they don't do things to promote peace. Remember, back chats are recorded. Texts and back chats are recorded, and it's public information. Remember that. I'm looking for that tree. Greenville tree. That's what it is. Hold on.
Yeah, the treaty of Greenville, all them chiefs were signed on too.
Yeah, your mic is really low.
Hold on. Let me adjust this. 1 2 1 2. That's better.
That's better.
All right. That's all it is that realizing that I'm gonna say it again, if our foundation as a whole is not correct, then we can't move forward correctly. If we're still allowing the BS in our communities because of our relations of the people to the people that's causing the BS, we're not gonna make it forward. Time for the deceit and the BS must stop. I mean, how we gonna scream, we tired, we tired, we tired. But then you turn right back around and, like I'm gonna keep saying it, financing your people's destruction. You tell people all the time that the tribes are out there and be willing to help, not just ask for help, be willing to help them as well. Or are we doing this for real help, or this just another scam to make a profit off our people?
So speaking of being on code and doing the right thing, it has been brought to my attention that I was not clear about a statement I made, or some statements I made in reference to providing information, meaning um, making a statement so where it'll appear that we would have people bragging on their accomplishments through their community and making it seem like they're banging on the chest, like, look at me, look at me. So for that, I apologize because that was not my intent. So I apologize to the chat. I apologize to YouTube because that is not what I meant. So I want to take the opportunity to clarify exactly what I mean. So there are things that are sacred, there are things that are secret, and there are things that can be shared. So there are things that are sacred, there are things that are secret, and there are things that are meant to be shared. So I'm going to the etymology of secret so we can get a better understanding of what that means. Secret, late 14th century, from Latin secretus, set apart, withdrawn, hidden, conceal, private, past participle of sincere, to set apart, divide, exclude, from se, without a part, properly on one's own. An adjective from late 14th century, from French secret, adjective use of noun. Open secret is from 1828, secret agent, first recorded 1750. Secret service is from 1737. Secret weapon is from 1936. So the verb to keep secret, described in OED as obsolete. 1590s, from secret, related, secreted, secreting. Okay. So secret, things that you don't want to expose or don't need to be exposed. So let's put it in street terms. So let's say you're doing some good things for your people, meaning there are people that are down and out and don't have an opportunity to take care of themselves. So you're volunteering your time, you're donating money, taking care of families, and you don't want it to be known. So that is a secret that should be kept, because if you tell it, then it's degrading the individuals that you're helping. So I can understand why that secret would be kept. So that is a secret that I don't think anybody would, feel comfortable divulging, because we wouldn't want that secret about us being divulged, because it puts us in a situation of not being at our best, because sometimes we always need help. So those are secrets, and those are things that should not be told. Okay, so now let's look at sacred. Late 14th century, past participle, adjective, from obsolete verb serene, to make holy. French, sacrer, consecrate, anoint, dedicate, or directly from Latin, sacrare, to make sacred, consecrate, hold sacred, immortalize, set apart, dedicate, the sacer, sacred, dedicated, holy, a curse from Old Latin, sacares, from root pi, sac, to sanctify. Buck groups in with Askin Sacrum, Ubrian, Sakra, and calls it a distinctive italic group without any clear outside connections. Divine has it from a pi root shunk, to make sacred, sanctify, and finds cognate in Hittite scalea, custom rights, Zankilla, to find, punish, related sacredness. A Latin nasalized form of Sankir, make sacred, confirm, ratify, ordain. An Old English word for sacred was Gakunt, sacred cow, object of Hindu veneration, is from 1891. Figurative sense of one who must be criticized, one who must not be criticized. It's first recorded in 1910, reflecting in Western views of Hinduism. Sacred Heart, the heart of Jesus as an object of religious veneration, is from 1765. So we've already talked about secret. So let's talk about sacred. Sacred is something that you only share with those that are part of your relatives or, for this sake, family. Meaning there are sacred rites and rituals for tribes. And if you're not a tribal member, you will not share those things. Okay, there must be a rite of passage before those information is passed on. And only then can that information be shared, because now you're part of the inner circle. So that's sacred information. So no one would be expected to share some sacred information with just any random individual. You know, so sacred could be something from the standpoint of having information that could benefit a large group, but if it got in the wrong hands, not only would that information be used wrong, but it could be kept from ever being used right. So that information would be sacred. So we have secret and we have sacred. Now let's go to share. Share, the verb.
Break it on down.
1850s. To portion to someone as his share. To apportion out to others. To enjoy or suffer something with others. From share, meaning to divide one's own and give part to others, and recorded from the 1590s, meaning confess one's sins openly. It's from the language of moral remembering, related, share, sharing, sharing. Okay, so we have secret, we have sacred. Now those are things that you don't tell anybody, or you only tell those that you trust.
Mm-hmm.
Shared, from what I understand, is something that not only lifts up you and the people that you're close to, but it's something that can lift up and help individuals that you may know or you may not know or never come in any contact with. So for instance, if someone's doing a genealogy and they find a new link or a website that allows people to access some information from the 1800s that people all over the United States were not able to access, and they share it, it would be beneficial to everybody. It helps everybody. And it doesn't hurt anybody who was using it or who owns it already. That's sharing, because it's beneficial to the individual, it uplifts the individual, and it helps everybody, whether you know them or not. That's sharing. Another example of sharing. Say you come across some information like, I don't know, being an Indian. You find out that you're part of a tribe. You start sharing this information, you start asking individuals, are they Indians? Do you have Indians in your family? You know, have you done your research? Now, not only does it not hurt you, but it helps other people because that's information they may not have known. That's sharing, right? Let's take it a little further, or let's make it as simple as possible. There's a sale at a store of some things that you would normally buy, and it's at half price. It would normally be $50, but it's on sale for $25. You post it and you share it. It's not hurting you, but it's also helping other people save money. That's sharing.
Bingo.
So we have secret, sacred, and sharing. So to make sure that I was on code, because I could be wrong, it wouldn't be the first time nor the last time, I took it upon myself to look up my tribe's constitution and bylaws. And there is nowhere in the Constitution nor bylaws that says we are not allowed to share information that can help someone that does not put any negative connotation on our tribe. So
and
there's
for the
nothing
record,
sharing that Constitution.
And for the record, the tribe is
Potawatomi. I also looked at the Potawatomi Nation in South Carolina, and I will put that link in there because that is a public constitution and bylaws. Nowhere in that bylaw does it say it's illegal, immoral, or unethical to share something that's beneficial to the community that does not denigrate or harm the tribe. But you know me, I'm gonna go a step further. Does anybody know what the National Congress of American Indians is?
woo, woo, woo.
That is a tribal governance. And they have a purpose. They are the Congress that rules over the 573 federally recognized tribes.
Boom.
And it states their purpose is
how many?
573.
Oh, it's on the screen. Yeah, I see it. Never mind.
Boom. And those are the federal recognized.
So it reads, these rules are intended to serve as a guide to delegates in conducting their business and selling policy for National Congress of American Indians and General Assembly Convention at the mid-year convention and during special sessions of Congress. It is not intended to take place of any of the accepted rules of order or special rules adopted in the convention of the NCAI reserves the right to adopt any amendments to these rules, adopt substitutes rules at any time with the majority vote of quorum of the delegates. So I'm going to go and read what their purpose is. Because I want to make sure that I'm on code and I'm not doing something that I'm not supposed to. So let's see, where is it? Purpose. Because this is important. So bear with me, please. Go back to the main page.
Still looking it up.
Yeah.
No problem. And to the chat and the audience, whether it's from the website or you're on Twitch TV, on YouTube, our main reason for doing this is to get the information right. All of us are human and we can make mistakes. But at here, if we make a mistake or we state something wrong, we have no problem with correcting it and explaining to people why we take the position that we take. We cannot afford to let resources go out of hand. We cannot afford to allow people, again, to use our information, our history against us. And a lot of people spend the majority of the time talking about colonizers or people that don't look like you causing the damage. When reality is, it's the ones that's closest to you that's doing the most damage.
Okay, so I found it.
Okay.
Bylaws. Article 2, purpose. The purpose of the National Congress of American Indians is to serve as a foreman for unified policy, development among tribal governments in order to protect and advance tribal governance and treaty rights, promote economic development and health and welfare in Indian and Alaska Native communities, educate the public toward better understanding of Indian and Alaska Native tribes, The principal office of the NCAI shall be located in Washington, D.C., and maybe such other offices or may relocate the principal office in other locations as the executive council may determine from time to time. So the purpose is to protect and advance the tribal governance and treaty, promote economic development and health and welfare in Indian and Alaska Native. Why does it say Indian and Alaska Nations? Because they talk about all 573 tribes, not specific to one tribe, but all tribes. So that means they are sharing information. Now,
Bingo.
you know me, I would want to step further.
Oh, bring it, bring it. You know, we very thorough with info.
Tribal courts, because we're dealing with tribal law. I start looking for tribal court cases, and there is not one case that says anything against any tribal member who was sharing information to help other communities. Meaning they weren't sharing secrets, they weren't sharing sacred information, they were sharing information that was helping others, and there was no court case preventing them from doing so. So now that we didn't get that straight, and it's been proven that what I'm talking about is on code. Let's talk about secret and sacred only. So you have secret, sacred, and shared. If you're only doing secret and sacred, meaning you're not sharing anything with anybody,
the embedment of the American Indian and the tribes, you are off code.
not only that, wouldn't that make you like a Masonic organization that generally is accused of doing something harmful to the public?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. And now you are being exclusive, not inclusive. And there is no constitution by no American Indian tribe that supports that. So there could be one of three reasons, from my personal opinion, and my personal opinion only, because it's the way I view it, and I could be wrong. There's only one of three reasons why an individual or individuals would only be talking about secret and sacred stuff and not sharing anything that's beneficial to the public. One, they were unaware that they could share, which is possible. Number two, you're not doing anything beneficial in your community to help anybody, and you don't want to be exposed. Number three, you are part of a cult, and your community is part of a cult, and you don't want nobody to know. So if everything you do is secret and sacred, and you have nothing to share, or you're not sharing anything, from my personal opinion, those are one of the three reasons why. Now, there might be others, but just my personal experience, and from reading the constitutions from the tribe that I belong to, and the tribes of others similar to ours, there is nothing in the Constitution preventing us from sharing anything. So the question we need to ask is, why are people only focusing on secret and sacred? I relinquish the mic.
I say very good points that were brought up. And I'm saying it again, is that if you're sitting on information that can benefit and not applying it, then what position are you taking? I mean, this is where we have to do our due diligence. The reason why we picked the Jospeh Brant story wasn't by accident. It's because by studying this history, you can see the same traits that exist in our communities are the same traits back then that started tearing apart our communities. So we must get back on code, and it's going to keep saying it over and over and over. Is that if we want better, we must do better. We must be better. You can't put garbage in and expect positive results. If you put garbage in, you put garbage out. And as a community, everybody must be held accountable for their actions or lack of action. Because not one, not two, not five, not six, not eight, not 10 can fix it by themselves. It's going to take all able hands and able bodies. So let's start putting this foolishness aside. Let's stop the childishness. Let's show, improve. The information that's being presented is being presented for a reason, to learn, not to make the mistakes of the past. That's why you study the past, not to romanticize it, not to get stuck in it, so you don't make the mistakes in your present or your future. We so quick to read these stories and talk about, oh, we are great people and this and that. But if we're not learning from the mistakes and learning how to apply it, we're just wasting each other's time. So we have to think. Like TMA said earlier, in these communities, people that like to talk about people but can't say it in front of the person's face, we have to stop that. Because if a person comes to you with information about another person but can't tell you in front of another person, that has to be called out. What they called that back then, sugar mouth. Now we call it he say, she say. We see the same situation was going on with Jospeh Brant. At that time, they called it sugar mouth. That's talking sweet out the mouth to get somebody to follow what you want to follow with no proof and no evidence. I understand a lot of people want to hear the feel-good stories, the romanticizing. But the feel-good stories and the romanticizing is what's used to keep us asleep, relatives. We must be willing to deal with the hard, core truth and facts that are the majority of the situations that we face today is by our own hands. How many tribes stood up against this? We see that the same splits that we have now, we had back then, and it allowed for the foolishness to happen. So the only way, and I could be wrong, this is what I take from the stories, the only way to correct our ancestors' mistakes is to start holding people accountable for their actions or lack thereof. If we say this is who we are, then let's do it right. The foundation must be right. It starts now. The reason why we did the community spotlight is to encourage others. Because in this fight, it does get tedious. It does wear you down. But that motivation when you see that there's other like-minded American Indians in this fight with you that made it past the hurdles that you're stuck on. Ain't that encouragement? Isn't that uplifting? Facts, David Corey. Just talking trash back and forth about each other with no solutions being put up on the table. Like I said, a autonomous assembly is solution-based. Do the work to get close as possible to finding your tribe. Tie back in, and we will help you help your tribe. And we will do our best to help you find that tribe. But it takes everybody working together. Fast Golden Moon. The majority of our people don't want to hear this message. They stuck on the feel good, the romancing. Turned down for what? For tomorrow. For 7 generations down the line. How many times we gonna read that they use this alcohol and these drugs to fool us, to get us out of our proper state so we'll go along with the foolishness? Isn't there multiple liquor stores on the corner of our neighborhoods to this day? So we have to ask ourselves, why is it here? Is somebody imposing us, making us go support this stuff? Or we running to it, throwing our money and throwing ourselves away to it? Then had the audacity to complain about the situations that our children are being raised in or that we're in. But on the other hand, we're financing it. And we have brothers and we have people complaining about, oh, why should we help the tribes? They're not coming to help us. How can they help us how can they come out if we're not on code? So we're so selfish, we want tribes to ruin everything that they had to fight for. For us, should we be the ones fighting to make sure that we uplift them because they never forgot? Because of them still being in their place, we can tie back to our ancestors? We must use common sense. We have to. We're so quick to support every other culture but our own. Facts, David Corey, you shouldn't have to pay for info, especially to find out who you are. And from the creation of A2, we would never charge you. That's not what this is about. My brother TMAs tell you all the time. Most of our people are scared to deal with the colonizers. Here at A2, we're walking in these meetings, negotiating, bringing it back for our people. And if you have a problem with that, what's wrong with you? Let's stop the foolishness. It's easy to turn on each other. Our history's shown we always been banging on each other. But when we gonna pull together to get this common enemy off our back? And the common enemy isn't another person. It's us. We are our common enemy first. Because can't nobody come on our homeland and do anything if we were on code. So we need to stop being cowards and stop running and deal with the truth. Facts, David Corey. Be fearful of nothing. The only promise in your life is you're going to die one day. That is the only guarantee. So until then, we push forward. We stand here plenty shows letting you know that what we do today, we might not never live to see, but we're still going to do it. Nobody ever has to show up to hear a live stream, to ever have to watch it. We're still going to help. We're still going to get resources to help our people, to help our tribes. So I'm saying it now, putting it all on notice. Anyone who stands in the way of the rising of the American Indian will get ran over, will get buried. I don't care about your name or your self-proclaimed titles. Because in the end, my ancestors won't respect you giving yourself a title. So if you can't be on code, if you can't follow the rules, then you will be removed. You wonder why our children are in bad situations. Look at us as parents. Stop pointing the finger and use that thumb and point it back at you first. When are you willing to look in the mirror and face what you see? Some of us do come from Catawba and we know the damages that our ancestors done. And we stand here every day, fearless, to face it and fix it. And all we are saying, if you have a solution, put it out there. People constantly say there's other ways. Show it. Because we do. Consistency. So keep talking. Keep spreading the rumors. Keep trying to tear down. But what the creator has already ordained, the ink is dry. We're going nowhere Our Tontanist assembly will outlive me. It's time for us to start minding our business, relatives. The time is now. It's so quick and so easy to talk about fighting and this and that, shooting and doing that foolishness. But the real fight is to fight within yourself. What's the sense of taking up arms against somebody else and you're still taking up arms against your own brothers and sisters? Really? Sitting back acting like you're ready for war. But you don't manufacture anything. You don't own anything. And I'm tired of you cowards sending our children out there to die for nothing. Disgust. And I'm, for one, I am not going to keep my mouth closed. If you do an Indian wrong, you must correct it. I will not sit aside and watch another Indian harm another Indian brother or sister. I don't care what your title is or name. You're a coward. Keyboard warriors. Afraid because we're exposing that there's real Indians out here fighting, that it's going to blow up your hustle. So what? You need to be removed. We're not here for a popularity contest. We're not here to be liked. We're here for the love of our people. We're here for the promise of a better tomorrow. And whether we stand as millions or stand as one, the work will get done. I repeat again, the work will get done.
So the links that I sent, the first one was the Sapani Catawba Nation bylaws and constitution. That bylaws and constitution belongs to the Catawba Sapani of South Carolina. That is not the one from Ohio. That is the one from South Carolina. So if you read it, you will see it. So don't make the assumption that I'm sending something out that I'm not supposed to. That is public information. You can just Google Catawba Sapani Constitution and Bylaws and you will pull that one down. The other two links were from the National Congress of American Indians dealing with the tribal governance, and the other one was tribal laws and court cases. See, I'm not going to say something and not be able to back it up. So if I said something that was incorrect, I will come back on and apologize again. But I will do my best to speak as clearly and effectively as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's all about getting it right this time. So we always say, do your genealogy, tie back into your tribe, find your tribe, find us, and we'll help you and help your tribe. The information is sacred, but it's not a secret. And we do continue to share. I relinquish the mic.
Peace, Mr. TJ. Glad you was able to catch us too. You know, we normally don't come on in the evenings, but we deemed it was something very necessary to do so people know what we are here for, what is our purpose, and what is our end game. So everyone knows why we are here, why we choose to do this. And we say again, it's work that we do. We're not charging our communities. We don't want a dime from our community. We're bringing resources to our communities. And if you have a problem with that, I'm saying it again. Really? I hear stories how we're the new people on the block. And we shouldn't have the right to do this and do that. But for all of you who feel that way, what have you been doing if you've been here for 2 years and we've been here for a couple of months? And we're sitting on the first American Indian fully ran and operated broadcasting channel, and there's more to come. We're just getting started. Facts, David Corey. Many are called, but few are chosen. And I'm so proud I heard the call. And I'm so proud that I'm awoke to know who I am, to know what I'm supposed to be doing. So for that, I fear nothing or no one. The greatest thing that I can do is give my life for my people. What is greater? To stand up and not only talk about it, to live it every day. Not when it's just convenient for me or my family. The sign of it is when you're able and willing to wear your identity as American Indian when nothing is going good, when nothing is sweet for you, but you still wear it proudly. Wake up with my shield and sword for this. So again, let's get back to this genealogy. Let's find these tribes. Let's tie back in. I appreciate that, David Corey. You said, man, let me tell you, this is therapy. Like I said, here we refuse to sit here and give you the same old pandering stories to make you feel good when in reality you step out your door, it's not good for the American Indian right now. So we're going to sit back here and act like everything good, everything sweet. 2020 census right round the corner. And we got people telling our people not to participate in it. And you wondering why your neighborhoods are starving and dying. Yes, David Corey, we have to. If we can't talk our truths, if we can't talk about our lows and our mistakes amongst each other, what's really going on? If I can't tell my brother his faults and he can't tell me his, what's really going on? We must demand better from ourselves and each other. We must hold each other up and hold each other to a higher standard. And all I ask is for each American Indian in the sound of this broadcast right now. Do your best, because that's all that you can do. Your best. Do your best to get this info out. Do your best to help as many as possible. And if anybody asks you to do more than your best, you ain't got to respond to that. Do your part as an individual. That's where we start. Start in your household. Start in your neighborhoods. Start in your community. And don't let nobody tell you because you showing your community that's bad. How else would anybody else know it's possible? So let me get this right. It's cool for us to be on Facebook showing the worst of us. The worst of our communities we can show, but we can't show the best. We can't put the best of us on display. Come on, man.
I think that's it.
It was just sending a message in the chat. David Corey said, notice the negative stuff stays on the airwaves. Yes. If we was on here talking about the worst of our community, you had like 40,000 people listening to you. We know how that go. But I don't care about that. We don't care about that because that's not what we here for. YouTube is not where we do our work. YouTube is an outlet where we show our work. Make no mistake about it. And on that note, it has always been fun kicking it with the relatives. Don't mean to sound down, but most of you know me by now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to spoon feed you the BS. We're going to address the elephant in the room. We're not going to walk around and act like these situations and these issues don't exist. And for those of you that have issues, stop being children and let's be adults. Y'all know how to contact. If you want to know what the situation is, what's going on, reach out and contact. Stop hiding behind keyboards and spreading misnomers and lies. Because the difference with me, once I catch wind, I'm coming for you. And on that note, any closing remarks?
Just help people do their genealogy. Help people tie into their tribes. Ask that question, have you heard that you have Indian in your family? If there was a possibility that you could potentially get some land and help your family, you would want to know how to do that, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And that normally starts the conversation. Because the 2020 census is about resources for the people. Just because you don't need them doesn't mean that the community don't need them. Is that the secret you're trying to keep sacred?
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you said that too. One last rant I gotta get at. Just one, y'all. I am sick and tired of our registered Indian brothers and sisters that's in this community who sit back and don't help. You cause mischief and trouble. Should be ashamed of yourselves. You got yourself and your family free, but you're gonna leave the rest and condemn them. You will be exposed. Keep it up. Any closing remarks? No sellout.
He chooses to remain silent.
I guess on that note, we can close the show then. Didn't mean to keep the relatives too long. And then again, like I said, I apologize sometimes how I do come off. But at the end, I love all of you. I'm not just telling you that. We mean this. I'm not finna let no one come in this community, take, rob from you. If we see it, we will call it out. And all I ask is the same of my brothers and sisters. If y'all are aware that people are out here taken from American Indians, I ask of you, let's put an end to this. Let's clean up our communities. Let's clean up our neighborhoods. Let's clean up our acts. And on that note, see you in the rising. It's always great. Peace.